exterior spaces. Then we have Mr. Sanjay Patil, Senior Architect, Environ Planners, a graduate from Sir J.J. College of Architecture. His firm was established in 1981 in this very city of Nasik. A true nature lover, and so his firm's name also agrees on that. The fourth speaker for today is Mr. Sahil Khan, who is there on Zoom with us. Senior Director, Design and Technical Services, South Asia at Radisson Hotel Group. 17 years plus experience in design management and project coordination of luxury to upper middle scale hotels. So now the Environ panel, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. It's an honor and pleasure to be amongst all the hoteliers, and we are on the other side, the design fraternity. We've got all architects, even Sahil, who's on the brand side, he's another architect. So our topic for today is sustainability and what is sustainability? So we were just discussing amongst ourselves what is sustainability, and I thought all of us think that once you build it, you're going against sustainability. So I think it's a big challenge, and it's a very interesting topic and very controversial topic as well. So I'm going to be throwing some questions and discuss this and see what we can come out of it, out of this discussion. So firstly, I think I would be throwing a question to Sahil, since he's in Delhi and he can't travel. So Sahil, what do you think? How have you seen the incorporation of sustainability elements in hospitality architecture over the last decade?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sahil Khan. I take care of design and technical services for Radisson Hotel Group in South Asia. I'm an architect by education. And thank you, Mr. Kabul, for asking this question. Before I answer your question, let me just give you a brief background. RAG believes in responsible business and the focus moving forward to promote responsible building and operation practices under the title of Think Planet, which is RAG's corporate program that focuses on minimizing energy and water consumption, which all amounts to low carbon footprint. We have an internal target of reducing our carbon footprint to 50% by 2030 and become a net zero carbon footprint company by 2050. Furthermore, we are a part of Sustainability Hospitality Alliance, which is an alliance of leading hotels, 14 hotel chains across the world. Coming back to answering your question, coming back to specifics, we are all aware that use of local materials, orientation of buildings in accordance to the wind and the sun direction, use of natural light as much as possible, therefore minimizing your bills at the end of the month. Minimal depletion of natural resources are the key starting points to discuss sustainable design. But I would like to broaden the horizon and not only focus on design and architecture, but would like to take a helicopter view around sustainability. It is no secret that hospitality industry puts increased pressure on the environment and is demanding on natural resources. However, the industry also relies on the same natural and cultural resources, like to give you an example, forests, landscapes, pristine sandy beaches, etc. Therefore, conserving resources and sustainability is not only important for generations to come, but also for the very survival and the growth of hospitality industry. In the past decade, hospitality industry has been focusing on these few aspects which I am going to now talk about. First is energy management and conservation. The cost of energy is one of the highest in hotels. It is imperative to reduce energy consumption without compromising on the overall guest experience cost and the environment. To achieve this, hotels have been considering adopting technologies that enhance efficiency while conserving it. Energy-saving LED bulbs, smart thermostats, smart climate control, lighting, etc. are some of the technologies that we've been using as a hotel industry for last 1 decade. The second topic that I'd like to talk about is sourcing electricity from renewable sources. We all know that by and large, we've been consuming electricity from fossil fuels. But now there are enough ways and means possible that allow electricity to be sourced from sources like renewable sources like solar, wind, hydro, biofuel, and geothermal instead of fossil fuels. The next thing what I'd like to talk about is water management. With constant fluctuations in rainfall patterns, it has been more and more important to preserve water. Water conservation has always been a priority for the hospitality industry. Simple solutions like installation of aerators in all taps, encouraging waterless urinals, and short flushing options, as well as drip irrigation in the lawns and gardens, can reduce water consumption in hotels. Then we can talk about recycling water and water harvesting. As per the regulation mandates, it is necessary to install sewage treatment plants for all hotels to recycle sewage and then above a certain capacity. The obtained water from recycling can obviously be used for horticulture, so on and so forth. I think everybody attending this conference would know by rainwater harvesting, the consumption of groundwater is reduced. Rainwater can easily be stored and used for all purposes. Then the last thing that I'd like to speak about is waste management. Hotels by and large generate a lot of waste, which can be broadly categorized into wet waste, dry waste, and e-waste. In the era of the green economy and green strategy, recycling would benefit not only the hotel but the overall environment. It is essential for the hospitality industry to have an effective waste management system that focuses on reducing waste, reusing and recycling, and finally disposing of waste as per the prescribed methods. So these are the few things I wanted to speak about.
So Sahil, thank you. But this is again, this is all the backbone of the hotel building or the hospitality industry. But when you look at doing interiors, you do look at finishing. How do you think, Viraj, could you throw some light on, how do you use the materials in such a way that they are, sustainable and we can really get the carbon footprints?
So sustainability, if I had to only talk about interior design, architecture, I think most people are taking care of it, rainwater harvesting, STPs, the way the facades are planned. So we're taking care of all of that when we do the architecture of our buildings. When we move inside, it's now educating people about less is more, about going local, about specifying materials that would have a lesser VOC, or not using adhesives that are eventually going to pollute water and then affect our ocean life. And really actually sourcing a lot of local.
Lot of chemicals.
Lot of chemicals. I actually read a very interesting article that there was a luxury chain of resorts that changed their lip balm because they said when people wash their face, that water finally drained eventually into an ocean was depleting the coral. So I mean, while all of us might think this is so small, but I think every small bit will add up. And sustainability will need to become a lifestyle. So I mean, and considering we are designing in India, we have so much local material, so many things we can experiment with. We try and push owners, clients
organic
in that
materials.
Yeah, I mean, bamboo floor instead of wooden floor.
Right.
Restoration.
Yeah, we're doing that all the time. Yeah.
I mean, restoration, picking up art, artifacts, things like that have already been, and you sort of enhance them and reuse them. So I think reuse things that are available and use materials more consciously so that we can reduce our carbon footprint.
You've been in Nashik for, I think, how many years? 30 years, 35 years. You've been practicing in Nashik, and you've this thing seen Nashik change from the time you came to Nashik and started practicing until today. So, what do you think? I mean, so much development has come in, so much development is still coming. I am responsible for predicting a lot of things in Nashik. So, what is your take on that?
I think I have 4 stories, small story. Like first, I have a little contribution for wine tourism in Nashik. So first we started with one of the Sula's managing C.E.O. who had this farm next to the Sula. So we were building a farmhouse for him. And then we thought that we'll use the same material that they use in cold storage. So that is how we did his farmhouse, and that's Rajiv of Sula. He said that we'll start a boutique hotel there. So it started wine tourism from that place. Then they realized it was overfull for almost 90 to 100% occupancy. So he recommended that to this Mr. Patki to have a larger kind of accommodation. So we did build another hotel for them, which is also on the sustainable basis. Like we use the similar roofing system, natural material, and all standard principles that everybody knows about sustainable architecture. And then it picked up. So till the management was with the Sula, it was almost running 85% to 90% occupancy. Then Sula, they have their own resort there. So that is the first beginning. As far as the hotel industry is concerned, then we did one hotel where the facade is, it is taking care of less heating. So it is a perforated sheets which we envelop to the facade, and all the services also, though they are exposed there behind the screen. So that is one where the sustainability you can consider, you can save on the energy. And I think almost 3 to 4% of heating we can reduce. And due to that it is reduced. That is one where the facade is used, and all other elements are also there.
So I've seen your MET University where you worked out very well with the brick facade which is there, and then the indoor-outdoor spaces. Mostly all ventilated, naturally ventilated. So would you like to say something about how you did that?
No, actually what I feel is that our climate and our region needs a ventilated facade. So that kind of, a lot of central open spaces where it acts as a shaft, twin shaft. So those codes and all that we include in our normal design. So it may be any typology of building. It may be institute, maybe residence, maybe hotel. We try to include that. And so ventilated facade is essential, because rather than just building a big glass facade, we have tried this on a commercial basis, like where though they were insisting on a glass, so we did the facade with the ventilation system in the glass glazing also. So that is another approach of looking at it. Then recently we are doing one resort where the totally 100% recycled material is used. That is the old Vada from Nashik. The owner was, and it was, so each and every part of that house was reused, and we constructed 8 rooms, and it is now approved by the Airbnb company, and they are going to start managing that hotel. So that is one part, and I'm happy to say that it was designed by my daughter and totally constructed by the lady owner of that. So I think we are discussing about it. This is also new sustainability.
Great. Great. Thank you, sir. So, as architects, I myself, I would like to share something. I'm designing a resort. I'm designing a couple of resorts now. After pandemic, people have started realizing they want to do more resorts. They want to do small boutique resorts. Sorry. And they're using all sustainable materials. So we are using materials like we're doing a resort in Pokhara, and it's across the normal, it's across the lake, where the maximum development is on this side of the lake. So you approach Pokhara by flight, and then you can just take a, drive down, you take a ferry, and you go across and you get into the resort. You can dive about 30 kilometers and go into the resort, use fossil fuel, but no, this is a rowboat which takes you across, and it's totally sustainable. The materials that we are using over there is totally from the site itself, and so we're doing that, and I think a lot of people are getting aware, and so that's the need of the hour. I'll come to you, Faizan. Faizan is an architect, and he talks about doing alternate architecture. Am I right? So could you throw some light at how do you handle sustainability in that?
Okay, so my practice per se has been about roughly 2 decades old. I teach architecture as well. I'm a design chair at an architecture school in Mumbai as well. I shuttle between my design practice and the teachings. Sustainability today, the blessing is it's become fashionable as well as it's a curse. Because now when you see and approach materials, every other company will want to explain themselves as green and sustainable. My point is, what does it do for someone who's not informed about this? Like probably people like you who come on and rely on designers to make the right choice for you and would probably want to move towards sustainability. What exactly does it mean to be sustainable? I think that needs to be addressed at the first instance. I think it's a really proud feeling for me, and I'm sure all of us will agree that India per se has been extremely sustainable even today. I'm talking about our practices. Inherently, we have a repair instinct, not a replace instinct. You'll see the difference between a Maruti versus a BMW, right? You're going to replace parts there. None of those beamers are going to ask you to repair a door, it replaces. That's what, unfortunately, what's happening around the world in the building scene as well. When it comes down to hospitality and our industry, right, where you're talking about whether resorts or whether you're talking about maybe restaurants or resto pubs and high energy spaces, most of us instinctively, if we are taking over a space, we look at salvaging at some point or the other. That is sustainability in a way. We need to understand as people who are getting into this field, by we I mean all of us here, that is a step towards sustainability. What material are you choosing? That's important. For my practice per se, I think in my 20 years, I have not once used Italian marble. We have some really, really beautiful and climate responsive stones in our country as well. If you go towards the whole variant in Rajasthan itself, those stones defy heat. In 45 degrees temperature, you touch them and they'll feel like you're feeling a surface which is air conditioned.
So I just want to add in this thing, because how do you handle it? Because I think she will agree to it, and Sahil will also say the same thing. Even you see the Radisson, I'm sorry, the designer is not here, but would you as a client of Radisson accept using non-Italian marble or imported marble? So
I believe the question is for me, is it?
Yes and no. I mean, anybody could answer that question, because when, as a designer, when we go to the client and we tell him, okay, we want to use an Indian marble, oh no, it's a no. So they don't want it, because using an Italian marble or using something imported is the class. So, Sahil, what do you want to say?
Sorry, I beg to differ. So, I would not, I think aesthetically our stones are beautiful, they are brilliant, but their composition doesn't necessarily allow for the large footfalls and current lifestyles. So they're too porous, they'll stain very easily and things like that. So
we have materials which we can coat with and it can become non-porous.
So Viraj, I agree with what you're saying. What I'm trying to point out is that it's a bigger decision that we'll be taking. Like, I'll be very honest with you, I have sold a green stone labeled as Italian green at a space. It's put already, it's beautiful. It was Baroda green. Sometimes it's out here. They look beautiful, and I think that's one of the hardest stones you'll find.
Yes, that is a stone which has been exported. It's been exported all over the world and it's been used very extensively.
So and our granites. So they're also doing brilliantly.
So, a lot of times, see, that's what this panel is about probably. It's about probably changing mindsets, right? There is merit in probably stepping back and understanding, hey, what are we doing? See, you're not going to a cheese platter tasting space, right? When you're talking about sustainability, it becomes a responsibility for all of us. Ultimately, it's not a product that you're buying through your designer, right? Which is what we also tell our students, right? What exactly does sustainability mean, right? If you're using salvaging chairs and tables, right? Maybe that's a step towards sustainability, right? If your materials, your floors, right? Your ceilings, if there's anything to be salvaged there, or maybe locally sourced material, I think that's sustainability there. So what I'm trying to point out is that it's not something which is up there and now we need to capture it. It's within our realm here. And I think steps like these will make it a lot more relatable to people like us, and we'll be proud to say that, oh, we are going towards sustainability in the real sense. Right? Then of course, like Reza spoke about, Viraj spoke about, and Sir spoke about. I'm calling him Sir because I have studied under him. Like, he's been one of the mentors that I have grown up looking. And probably one of the reasons why I am into teaching today as well. I think that's another thing which it's probably off topic, but it's important. Mentorship is important. When I'm hearing people speak here, there is a charisma that's prevalent in how you can educate others and people under you. I have learned from him and him. Today I am, it's harrowing, but I am a design chair at one of the architecture schools, which is almost like a director. It helps. I think passing down of information is important. There needs to be someone who tells the one who are emerging that, hey, there is hope here in what our land is, right? When Kapil speaks about in the previous session about build. Do you really know there is no Makrana left in the world, that stone which we call Makrana? The mines are done, over with. Half of the stones that we know and we take pride in, we have excavated them to death. They are not available, right? So yeah, I think it's important for us to know about these things and then take whatever decision we want to take. At least you'll be conscious about it. And I think that is a step towards sustainability, I would say. We've been talking about all this while before we stepped onto the podium that, hey, how do you combine sustainability and luxury? They don't go well together. But then I think it's about these smaller steps. At least being conscious about it is important. At least you're moving towards it.
Yeah. No, so that's what the acceptability of the client should be there and the acceptability of the end user should be there. In many cases, it's not there, and that is what is creating a problem. Now, the resort what I'm talking about in Pokhara, we're using the local stone over there, and the client says, I want to give them this kind of a finish so that, it's like taking them back, using the best materials. So it's, as I always say, it's not only the architect who's important, it's the client and the architect who's important. They play hand in glove. If you have a good client, you can do an excellent job. We can do best drawings, we can visualize the best things, but if the client doesn't support you, nothing can happen. Am I right?
Sure, and I guess brand support also.
Absolutely. So I just wanted Sahil's input on this, when there are a lot of clients, when you tell them to do sustainability, they do not accept, like when we also suggest them to do something, they do not accept. So what is your take on that, and how do you push them to, get into using sustainable materials? Like, because earlier when you spoke only about, the backbone. Yes, that we can do it 100% as the sustainable, and that should be. I mean, we have done a couple of hotels, 5-star hotels, and there we got, the client got in windmills, they bought windmills, and they're getting the power generation from there. So it's total sustainable. But how do you, what's it, it must be a challenge for you also trying to convince them.
You asked a question and I couldn't really answer that question. When it comes to Radisson hotels, with a lot of responsibility, I can tell you, we try and sensitize our owners as well as the current architect, and you are working on a couple of projects with us to use local materials. I can very confidently tell you that most of the hotels that we are doing in the region, we are encouraging use of local materials. India is a land of so many stones, as the earlier gentleman spoke about. Why don't we explore our sandstone? Why don't we explore our granite? Why don't we explore the locally available marble? So the idea is to, in fact, we go on to say to our owners that why are we importing an Italian marble, something that doesn't belong here? Now coming back to your specific question, the one that you asked me right now. Since we are speaking at an event in the western part of this country, let me draw your attention to a hotel which is maybe 150 kilometers away, since a lot of people will be able to relate to it. This is a hotel in Lonavala, which we opened last year, and I will explain to you by giving you specific examples. This hotel is actually a perfect example of how a hotel operator, owner, and consultants can collectively deliver a hotel which has one common agenda, which was environmentally being conscious here without compromising on guest comfort. The hotel design was conceived, it's designed by a very renowned architect. The hotel design was conceived taking into consideration the surroundings, be it the hills. The hotel is around Shivaji's fort and 3 Buddhist caves, which are more than about 2,000 years old, having a pardon. And as I told you, it's about a kilometer from the radius of the site. The design has been conceived in a way wherein it clearly manifests sustainability, use of local materials, understanding the elements, particularly the wind, the rain, and of course the sun. The entire project is a rhapsody of essential materials interspersed with the elements of the forest represented by the landscape. The beautiful landscape of the Western Ghats serve as a backdrop of this hotel, in a way actually negating the build form. The architect in this case conceived the project in a way such that there is no threshold between the outside and the interiors of this building. I remember it was a very small site for a hotel of this nature. It's a 100-key hotel, and we had only 2 acres of land, and so it wasn't large enough to do a low-rise resort. So therefore, it enabled the design team an opportunity to reconstruct the entire build form, and hence bring the landscape and the trees more into focus than the structure. So the hotel design is quite calming. I don't know, some of you might have visited the hotel. The design has been conceived so well that it takes you away from the congestion and the hustle bustle of Lonavala. To give you specific examples, the entrance lounge of that hotel is a cylinder built out of black basalt stone, which echoes the turrets of Shivaji's forts. So, I'm giving you certain examples which just come to my mind. All the guest rooms have full height windows, thereby allowing ample features that the architect used was the use of hot lights, something that we don't do in hospitality industry that often. So by using this age-old tradition of using non-light trusses, it's dramatically or drastically reduced the heat, light, and power consumption of the hotel. Talking about materials, the facade is a very unique in its amalgamation by use of local stone walls. By the way, during the construction of the hotel, when they were digging the basement, they found massive boulders of the local basalt stone, and which the architect used and converted into the walls of that building. And that hotel, by the way, boasts of country's tallest gable wall. So that's my answer to your question.
Thank you, sir. So, Faizan, you've been doing also a lot of stonework and these kind of buildings. So, could you just share something? How do you do it, and what's your thoughts on that?
I'll talk about a project that I worked on. There is a place in Bangalore called Koramangala Social, if you've heard about it. I incidentally have designed about, my studio has designed about, I think about 18-20 socials as of now across the country. Many in Mumbai and few across the other places. Anyway, Koramangala Social, it's about a 15,000 odd square feet space, split over 2 levels. Okay, we were wild enough to puncture the roof slab, right, to let light in. So these are few checklists that probably, checklists or rather wish lists that we have to make the space a lot more energy efficient, right? Get ample light in, like Sahil spoke about, as much as possible. These are things which are always going to be under our control. If there are no windows in your space, please work with LEDs. You know they consume a fraction of power that's used. And once you do that, please spend a little amount and get into automation. You will be able to control how much light is required at every space, and that thereby reduces your energy consumption further, right? Stuff like this. All this is a part of Koramangala. Coming to stone, Koramangala is built entirely in this particular stone called Honorary, which is locally found in Bangalore and around. It's the stone which is used to cover the gutters. It's found in everywhere. Yeah. It's a greyish color, beautiful stone. The entire Koramangala space is built out of there. Your flooring, walls, in of course a very curated way, right? Reza, I think I have to give him complete credit to be able to trust us on that, the studio, that hey, we'll make this look good. We'll make sure it doesn't look like a gutter cover, right? That space has been shortlisted in the top 5 restaurant and bars for the Global Bar and Restaurant Awards. Now, if that doesn't give you confidence, I don't know what will. It's a stone which is used to cover the gutters, right? So I think it's more about perception. It's more about how you probably trust your designer and expect him or her to bring out the best. Why are we harping about local again? The whole dynamics here, and I'm sure you know about it, is local means you're spending less energy to procure the material, right? As opposed to what's shipped over and you spend gazillion amount of liters of fuel to get it here, right? That's why local is important. Another thing is because it's local, there are very high chances that it responds to your local climate and your local wear and tear, which is why local is important. Which is why when you see your kunds and all these spaces, they are built in stone which was available there. No one thought of shipping them over from north to south, even in India. Right? These are cues that we can take over from our past. Okay? Yeah, I think that says it.
Going back to vernacular practices is another way of probably being more sustainable. So when we built the Rajvilas, the insulation over there, the heat insulation was done with earthen pots and mud. It's worked brilliantly. I believe Shekhar was just telling me in the car, a hotel we did in Calcutta, for the waterproofing, jaggery was used as a solution and it worked brilliantly. I think if we go back to vernacular practices, we'll definitely be more sustainable.
So to add to that, I come from a city which is 3,500 years old, and there everything is made out of mud and sun-dried bricks, and they are still standing till today, the structures, and they don't leak. So it's built on the same principle, with the same mud from the same location. So, I mean, that's, I think, what is sustainable. And today, all those big houses are converted into, boutique hotels, and they become really, it's promoting tourism. So, sir, you've done a lot of structures like this. Could you tell us something on that?
I think there are different niches in the hospitality industry. Like, you cannot compare all of them together. So, like boutique hotel has a different concept. Rural or
business hotels.
Yeah, so regional hotels or business hotel has a different concept. So every hotel has a different concept and different need of that place. So accordingly, you and all other architects cater for it, and client also aspire for it. Like sometimes it is, as you said, it is the client's wish. Like even though you feel, because I have experienced that in Bangalore also when I was designing. Proposing a local stone there. So he said, I'm happy with that. But what will my community say? That have you lost, exhausted with your funds or what? So these are the mindsets you have. But all the same, when I visited Kyoto station in Japan, and I was so proud of seeing all palette of the stones used, and mostly all of them were imported from India. So, like you said, we have also good resources and good material to use, and which is also equally international standard, or you can get them of international standard. So that is one aspect. So we have also designed these places with as per we have in Grape County we have used the Shahabad flooring for the restaurant and the other public areas. So I think no material is wrong. How you use it is important.
Something.
No, I'm just saying the correct application, I think, is.
Then you want to add something?
I think in hindsight, knowing our system in totality makes a big difference to our choices, informed choices. Yeah. When I spoke about Koramangala, right, and that space, I think it's important for me to tell you what followed after that. Once it was publicized as one of the bars, that was probably the only bar in that year, in 2014 or 15, which got selected in the International Bar and Restaurants Award. Post that, we got at least about 8 to 10 requests, at least, to design spaces in that stone. Can you imagine? And I think that gives me hope that once something becomes fashionable, it will catch on. Then maybe we'll have people who will hunt for Shaba and probably Kota, which today is used in your kitchens, right? I think it's about changing mindset. It's about curating things in the right way, right? You always, if khadi is called linen, it suddenly becomes fashionable. So I think we are there. As a country, I think I'm extremely hopeful. We are at a juncture where we are shooting high. We have materials which are brilliantly and abundantly found in our country. I think there's lots of fun stuff to do. So I think as a team with us together, I think we can create wonders.
But it's when the FSI and the greed comes in, that takes over. So you have to be, you have to control yourself and you have to control your emotions, and I think you can do the right thing. Sahil, do you want to add something on this? Sahil?
No, I think I completely agree with all the panelists. As a country, we are getting more conscious around sustainability. I work with a lot of designers And I can tell you, most of our designers are now looking within India. They are, and that never used to be the mindset. Most of the designers would talk of international materials, but a lot of Indian interior designers and architects are just doing some fantastic work. And according to me, the way I judge design firms is the real talented ones are the ones who can generate that kind of quality by using local materials. And the mediocre ones are the ones who just simply specify that let's just import Botticino or whatever, I mean, for lack of a better example. So, yes, we are getting there, and I think it is our collective endeavor, and we should be, to kind of be responsible towards our next generation. So that's all I can add to this conversation.
So I think land is not going to be rebuilt, so we have to use land very sensibly, very resourcefully. And I just want to share what I'm doing, I mean, how we can build sustainable. So we are doing now a couple of experiential resorts, and they're taking you back to nature. And what we are doing is we are on the hillside, of course, we are on the hill slopes. So we are building it in such a way that we have the winds, we are placing the building in such a way that we get cross ventilation. So for the first time, we are building a room with two side windows. So you can, the wind passes through the room, even the clouds go through the room, and you are, you don't require air conditioning. In the good climate, good seasons, you don't require air conditioning. And of course, it's a challenge. We are thinking how we would use the materials, because eventually that fog is going to, settle on the wall and the furniture and everything. So we are just experimenting how we could, overcome these issues. But we are doing rooms like this. So in the daytime, you don't need natural light. You've got natural light, ample ventilation. So you don't need lighting in the rooms. So we are trying a lot of experiments. I think from this take of this discussion, we should build sensibly and we should build wisely. As I said, land is not going to be built anymore. I think that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Anybody with any questions?
Yes,
Hi, thank you very much. It is a collection of small owner-run independent hotels who actually work on a lot of the principles that you talk about. One of the things I wanted to point out and loudly for people who would like to hear is that when you're trying to build or you're trying to build for a client, like for us as a hotel marketing company, to get tour operators to use a repurposed hotel over a modern, square rectangular hotel is to inspire them, to tell them why this is better than that. Right? They are actually capable of supporting a 350-year-old architecture, for instance. I think you do a similar function when you are able to inspire your client to continue with a design principle that resonates with the destination. That's one of the first things that I look for when I take a hotel on to promote, that how easily and how identifiable it is to the destination. I don't want a Singapore-like ecosystems in where the lodges are. So that kind of really changes the whole architecture and the whole design principle of the place. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was an answer more than a question. I think it's great. I'm very much aware of what you're saying, and that's why I told you the 3,500-year-old heritage city, what I'm talking about. There are old houses which have got wind catchers. It's got walls of 3 feet with and there is no air conditioning in it till today also. So the wind catchers, they go over the water and then the wind comes into the rooms and it is cooling the entire property. So I agree with you, yes, it should look, when it's a heritage location or it's a, location like what you're saying, yes, I agree with you. Thank you for the information. Anybody else?
Good evening, panel. Small question. When you're dealing with a client for the first time or a repeat client, what are the most difficult roadblocks that you face while planning a project to be sustainable?
No, I think, well,
Is most of the battle won? I don't think, I mean, if you have a client
Yes.
on board, is on the same page with you, I don't think going sustainable is so hard.
as I say, always a client is very important. If you have the right kind of client who's on your page, half your job or 90% of your job is done, because then you are in sync with each other, and whenever he says something, you know what he wants, and when you say something, he knows what you want. So half the battle is won. Sahil, do you want to add something to that?
If you've taken a decision, you go to Bombay, right? Tomorrow, if you were not to go to Bombay and I tell you that please don't go to Bombay, go to Lonavala, it's the only difference is that I need to convince you to go to Lonavala and go to Bombay. So out and out, it is only the question of mindset. And as I told you, our Lonavala Hotel is a classic example of the operator, the owner, and the architect, all three of us, key decision makers, coming on the same page and deliver a project that speaks of sustainability. So as Ms. Patki also said, mindset is the only issue. If you're all on the same page, then you're all speaking the same language.
Well said, Sahil. I think if everybody is traveling in the car and they go for one destination, you reach faster than honestly, you have disputes where you want to go.
Also, I don't think anything is 100%. So, even if something is desired by ownership that might not be fully sustainable, you can introduce elements to make it more sustainable. You could be doing a completely glass facade building, but then building sunshades so that, you're cutting down the sunlight coming in and therefore the air conning and etc. So, I think, we can't completely negate what a client wants to see in the end. But I think you can build in elements to make it more sustainable.
I think there is some part of educating client also. Like you explain them the pros and cons, and then you can show them some examples. And then I think sometimes it is easier to convince client also.
Correct, but then at times the client is so rigid, he says no. He brings a picture and he says, I want this. And he doesn't understand the importance, where or what the location is and how the, climatic conditions are. And he wants it, like you tell him you have to use a double glazed glass, he says, no, I don't want to use a double glazed glass because it's cost. So it is a challenge, but then eventually we as architects, we have to push him and explain it to him.
Educating them.
Educate him. Every new client is, you are educating. So it's a big challenge as architects, I think. What do you say, Reza?
Fortunately, like you were just saying, sustainable is fashionable today. Lime plaster over cement plaster. Everyone wants stuccoed walls. So it's just about doing it the right way and making it sustainable. You can get that aesthetic.
And I think a heads up, when you go sustainable, there is always going to be maintenance required. The more plastic you go, the least maintenance you're going to have, right? Your tiles don't wear off. They're going to be the same for the next 20-25 years. That's an added advantage. If you use lime plaster, it probably will require a certain amount of maintenance, right? To keep it safe. What it does is it keeps your temperatures lower. It also absorbs carbon dioxide. Can you imagine covering up all your walls in a material which is absorbing carbon dioxide? If that's not a big seller, I don't know what is. Right? And these are all ingenious methods that we've been using, right? And when you talk about mindset, and thank you so much for speaking about what you spoke about. I'm sorry I didn't get your name. Maybe I'll connect after you after we're done. But we need projects which inspire. I think that's all that's required. The moment you see something which is up there, everyone will want to go towards that. It becomes inspirational. Not for people like us. I would probably be prudent enough to say that maybe we have arrived sitting in this really palatial, luxurious room and talking about sustainability. What projects like these do, and it's something that we speak about often, is that they inspire the ones who need it the most. They inspire the people who build this up. They inspire the locals. Hence, they cut down migration and hence lots of things fall in place. Right? And which is where there is an overall development which is built, right? And I think that's a constant debate that's going to be back and forth. And I think dialogues like these, if you probably generate with clients, which are not your project based, but a bigger umbrella, even if the client chooses to go away or we choose not to work with them, we hope that maybe the world is a better place because now we know better, right? So yeah, that's where we are.
I think to sum it up, it's a big challenge. Sustainable is a very difficult question. As Faizan said, you got to have the right kind of artisans, the masons, the skilled people, which is becoming a challenge. So it's not only the material or what we use, but I think going forward we have to advance, that is there. So we have to use it sensibly, wisely, make it sustainable and do the best. That's what I can think.
Thank you so much, gentlemen panel. I have to thank the Fern Hotels and Resorts India to sponsor this business session 4 for today. Big round of applause to the Fern Hotels and Resorts. I now invite Mr. Dilip Kothari, Joint Honorary Secretary, HRAWI, on to the dais to felicitate the eminent panel.
So Sahil, you're going to be felicitated about you.
Sustainable. That's the first.
It's going to be sustainable, so you know the bottles you won't get it, but you can show it to you virtually.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much. Let's have a quick photograph of the panel. Reza, if you can please conform. Thank you so much. And before we break and come back tomorrow for the last business session 5, which is going to be starting tomorrow at 11:30, I would like to announce that the dinner that was supposed to be held today at Sula is going to be here, very much here at the host hotel Radisson. And we have something in store for you. We've arranged for wine tour and tasting for all the delegates here itself during the dinner time, which is at the Honorary Hall, which is right outside the banquet. So here we break and we come back at 8:15 for dinner and more entertainment for you. See you. Bye.